You are not weak because life shakes you. You are weak because you never trained to stand still while it does. The modern world teaches men how to perform, but never how to endure. It teaches how to speak louder, react faster, argue harder, but never how to master the only thing that ever mattered: yourself. Discipline isn't loud, real power doesn't broadcast, and unshakable men are not born. They are built through habits no one claps for, through decisions made in silence, through principles applied when no one else is watching. This isn't about appearing strong. This is about being strong, so deeply rooted in yourself that nothing from outside can move you without permission. This video is not a list of cliches. It's not about cold showers, screaming affirmations, or chasing validation through routines disguised as strength. These 10 habits are weapons forged in philosophy, pressure tested through life, and sharpened by experience. They are invisible, psychological, relentless. They are the habits of men who no longer live to prove. They live to possess. A Stoic doesn't harden. He clears. He doesn't become numb. He becomes precise. While others try to control the world, he masters the only thing he truly owns: his thoughts, his judgments, his responses. When you begin living this way, you don't just become calmer. You become untouchable. The world will not hand you peace. It will hand you noise, urgency, weakness dressed as comfort, ego dressed as confidence. And unless you are conscious, unless you move through life with sharpened awareness, you will lose yourself pretending you're in control. The unshaken man is not perfect. He's not cold. He's not aggressive. He simply doesn't fall for the bait. Not every fight is his. Not every demand deserves his energy. He picks his responses like a sculptor picks his next strike: intentional, precise, rare. This is not motivation. It's a challenge. Because deep down, you already know that you're being pulled in too many directions. You already know that your mind is overstimulated, overcommitted, and undertrained. You feel the pull to react, to justify, to be everywhere, say everything, prove something. But the strongest men you'll ever meet are the ones who train themselves to step back, to see, to remain centered in a world that worships reactivity. In the next few minutes, you'll learn the 10 habits that unshaken men live by. But don't just listen. Question, reflect, apply. Because one of these habits might expose your weakness. Another might awaken your strength. And if you're paying attention, really paying attention, this video won't just inspire you. It will reconstruct you. Let's begin. Strength isn't always forward. Sometimes it's retreat, but not the kind that runs, the kind that recalibrates. The unshaken man doesn't vanish when life gets heavy. He withdraws, not to escape, but to sharpen. He removes himself, not to be missed, but to remember himself. There's a difference between disappearing and detaching. One seeks attention, the other seeks clarity. Most people collapse into noise when things get difficult. They reach for distraction, feedback, stimulation. But the disciplined man goes the other way. He doesn't ghost the world. He simply returns to himself. And in doing so, he becomes immune to the pull of it all. His absence isn't void. It's reinforcement. It's reflection. It's space to become more precise, more grounded, more sovereign. He knows this. Presence without clarity is chaos. That's why he steps back. Not to abandon, but to return stronger. The weak vanish when they feel overwhelmed. They don't step back. They dissolve. Their disappearance is not strategy. It's surrender. It's a collapse of identity under the weight of stimulus. But the unshaken man understands that retreat is not a retreat from life. It's a retreat into the core of himself. He doesn't need to be everywhere. He doesn't owe his presence to every moment. He knows when to step back, not out of fear or fatigue, but because silence gives shape to strength. Withdrawal, when done with intention, becomes a sacred reset, a mental cleanse, a psychological sharpening. He detaches, not to avoid, but to observe. not to isolate, but to integrate, to protect his clarity like a warrior polishes his blade before battle. There is a kind of disappearance that leaves others confused, waiting, reactive. That's not power. That's passive aggression wearing spiritual clothing. The real habit of withdrawing is not performative. It's not emotional absence or social withdrawal made to punish others. It's the opposite. It's pulling away, so no noise, no opinion, no energy dilutes what you know to be true. The world pressures you to always be seen, always be connected, always be producing. But what good is presence if it's polluted? What good is participation if your mind is divided? Strong men leave the room to return sharper. They don't ghost, they reclaim. They don't flee, they cleanse. And when they reappear, they're not louder, they're clearer. There's a weight in their presence that only silence can create. When you live surrounded by noise, your attention begins to fray. You start reacting instead of seeing. You start rushing instead of choosing. You lose yourself inside momentum that isn't even yours. Withdrawal is how you break that spell. It's how you reset the pace. Not by slamming the brakes in a panic, but by stepping off the track altogether. By making room to think without pressure, to feel without performance, to listen without preparing a response. This habit is a revolt against the hyper-availability that keeps men tired, confused, and disconnected from their own will. The unshaken man knows that when you are always reachable, you are never truly grounded, so he makes it a ritual to disappear into solitude, not for hours, sometimes not even for minutes, just long enough to stop being everyone else and remember what it feels like to be himself. It's in these brief withdrawals that he hears the voice beneath the noise, the thoughts that aren't borrowed, the intuitions that aren't polluted. That's where his edge is rebuilt. That's where he regains the authority to move on. His terms, not the world's. Because a man who never steps back begins to rot inwardly. He becomes reactive, emotionally porous, mentally stretched. Withdrawal is not weakness. It is maintenance. It is architecture. The most grounded men you'll ever meet are the ones who learned how to disappear without disconnecting. They mastered the art of pausing without unraveling. They are present when needed and absent when necessary. Not to avoid life, but to stay sovereign in the middle of it. You don't need to run. You don't need to explain. You don't even need to announce your pause. You just need to honor it. You need to know the difference between engagement and addiction, between presence and performance. Every time you disappear into yourself with clarity, you return less shaken, less pulled, less breakable. Not because life changed, but because you did. The habit of strategic withdrawal doesn't make you invisible. It makes you undeniable. Because when you return, people don't just hear you. They feel you. The silence carved a presence out of absence. And it's that presence, measured, anchored, undistracted, that can walk through chaos and not be moved. The men who change rooms when they walk in are the men who practiced being absent with purpose, the ones who answer slowly, the ones who observe before acting, the ones who speak not to be heard, but because what they say was forged in silence. So don't fear the urge to withdraw. Welcome it, use it, shape it. You are not disappearing. You are disciplining your awareness. You are stepping back not to escape, but to return with something real. That is not weakness. That is command. There is a kind of power that never raises its voice, a kind of dominance that never needs to be declared. The unshaken man lives in that realm. He doesn't need to win arguments. He doesn't need to close conversations with finality or cleverness. The truth is not something he throws at others. It's something he carries, silently, confidently, and without need for approval. And because of that, he doesn't chase the last word. He watches others scramble for it. Needing the last word is a form of panic dressed as pride. It's the subtle desperation of needing to be right, to be seen, to be validated. But strong men know that validation is a poor fuel. It burns fast and leaves them empty. What they seek is not attention. It's alignment. And alignment is never found in a shouting match. The Stoic doesn't fight to win. He stands to see. He doesn't speak to dominate. He speaks to clarify. And when clarity has been reached, for himself, not necessarily for others, he leaves the conversation without resistance. There is no need to keep proving a point when the point already lives in him. While others argue to be heard, he listens to understand. He isn't pulled into every confrontation because he knows most conflict is not about truth. It's about ego, about identity, about unhealed parts of others trying to assert control through voice. But he doesn't belong to that dynamic. He doesn't play emotional chess matches where the prize is pride, because pride is cheap when it costs your peace. Every time you feel the need to have the last word, pause. Ask yourself, what are you actually defending? Is it truth or is it territory? Is it your value or your vanity? Often, what we defend most aggressively is what we doubt most deeply. And the unshaken man has no need to defend what he has already confirmed within himself. That's why his silence cuts deeper than most people's words. It's not passive, it's potent. It's not absence, it's authority. There's a difference between being quiet because you're afraid and being silent because you don't need to speak. And when you reach that level of inner clarity, every reaction becomes optional. Every reply becomes a choice, not a compulsion. The world is addicted to being right, to clapping back, to defending, to asserting itself at all costs. But the cost is always peace, and the return is always temporary. Strong men operate differently. They don't fear being misunderstood because they're not built to be easily shaken by perception. They know the truth doesn't need theatrics. It doesn't need backup. It needs only one thing: presence. And their presence speaks louder than anything they could say in anger, in haste, or in ego. This doesn't mean they never speak. It means they speak with precision, and only when it serves their clarity, not their pride. This habit isn't about letting others win. It's about realizing that most battles aren't worth entering. Because most people argue not to find truth, but to avoid facing it. They'd rather exhaust you than examine themselves. And when you understand that, you stop chasing victories in places where there is no reward. You stop giving your energy to people who don't want answers. They want reactions. And the unshaken man doesn't react on command. He doesn't play the role someone else writes for him. He chooses his stage, his moment, his tone, his silence. There is no strength in always having something to say. Sometimes real strength is in letting others echo their own noise until they tire themselves out, until they realize they're the only ones still swinging in a fight you never entered. And when they ask why you didn't respond, you won't need to explain, because the strongest replies are the ones that never leave your mouth. They're the ones that live in your posture, in your presence, in your peace. They're the ones that say, I don't need to win this, I already did, by refusing to lose myself in it. If someone misunderstands you, let them. If someone distorts your words, let them. If someone disrespects you, observe them. Not everything is yours to correct. Not every falsehood deserves a rebuttal. The truth survives without your defense. Your peace does not. And every time you fight for the last word, you trade something internal for something external. You give away clarity to gain control over perception. But perception shifts. It dissolves. It's never yours. What is yours is your energy, your direction, your discipline. Keep it. There will be moments when you're tempted to jump back into the chaos, to reply one more time, to say the thing you know will land, to make them feel what you felt. But when you do, you lose, not because you weren't right, but because you betrayed your stillness for a drop of noise. And that noise never satisfies. The unshaken man doesn't need to be louder. He needs to be deeper. And depth begins with knowing when to speak, and more importantly, when to stop. You don't need to react to what you see. You don't need to take every glance, tone, or gesture as a command. The unshaken man has learned to watch people like a strategist, not to control them, but to protect himself from being controlled by them. He sees but doesn't absorb. He listens but doesn't internalize. He reads the energy in a room without allowing it to rewrite his own. This is not emotional detachment, it's awareness. It's the habit of staying alert without becoming entangled. And in a world that demands your reaction at every turn, this becomes a weapon, because the man who cannot be baited cannot be broken. Most people spend their lives absorbing emotional static from everyone around them. They mistake empathy for identity. They confuse understanding with attachment. But the disciplined man knows this. Feeling everything is not a virtue if it costs you your direction. You can observe someone's chaos without stepping into it. You can notice their patterns without becoming part of them. When you master this, you stop bleeding energy into conversations that go nowhere. You stop explaining yourself to people who aren't listening. You stop trying to correct the noise that was never about you in the first place. Observation, at its highest level, is not passive. It's surgical. It's the ability to see without needing to fix, to understand without needing to agree, to perceive without needing to perform. The Stoic man sits quietly in rooms where others posture. He studies the eyes, the breath, the body language. He hears what is said, but more importantly, what isn't. He doesn't rush to judgment, but he doesn't surrender discernment either. His silence is not confusion, it's calibration. He watches not to be entertained, but to remain grounded in truth. Because reacting too soon is how clarity is lost. And the man who reacts to everything sees nothing clearly. People want to be seen, but they also want to control how they are seen. They perform, manipulate, mirror. They use tone as weapons, silence as pressure, presence as power plays. But the unshaken man isn't pulled into these games. He sees the strategy behind the sentence. He sees the wound behind the anger. And still, he doesn't flinch, because he understands this. Not every energy deserves a response. Not every signal deserves to be returned. He does not absorb tension that isn't his. He lets others carry their own weight. When you learn to watch people without reacting to them, you begin to see what really governs them. You start noticing how often they seek attention, affirmation, conflict, control. You see how rarely their words match their actions, how often their outrage is just insecurity with a mask. But instead of calling it out, you simply witness it, because pointing it out doesn't change it. Observing it changes you. It gives you choice. It gives you clarity. It puts distance between their storm and your center. That distance is where discipline lives. You don't need to fix people. You don't need to agree with them. You don't even need to defend yourself. Most of the time, the argument isn't with you. It's with themselves. You were just close enough to catch the fallout. The unshaken man knows how to step aside without stepping away. He remains present, but untangled. He doesn't resist or engage. He simply lets people be who they are and decides who he will be regardless. This habit isn't coldness, it's clarity. It's how strong men conserve energy, maintain focus, and avoid unnecessary fires. They know how much chaos is avoided simply by refusing to respond to it. They understand that their presence has gravity, and wherever they direct attention, something grows. So they don't feed every emotion. They don't meet every glance with a nod. They don't answer every provocation. They choose their movements with care. Watch how people speak when they think you're not reacting. Watch how much of their truth leaks through their attempts to impress or intimidate. In your stillness, their masks loosen. In your silence, their patterns expose themselves. And while they spin in their performance, you remain rooted, not indifferent, but undisturbed. Not detached, but discerning. Not passive, but prepared. The man who reacts to everything is exhausted. He gives his power to every tone shift, every facial expression, every projection. But the man who watches without being moved is rare. He listens with presence, responds with precision, and exits with peace. His attention is a currency. His energy is protected. His clarity is earned through restraint. This is what makes him unshaken, not that he doesn't see what others do, but that he doesn't lose himself trying to correct it. If you want to be free in this world, learn to witness it without becoming it. Let people reveal themselves. Let their patterns speak louder than their words. Let the world do what it does, and choose, moment by moment, how little of it you let in. That is not detachment. That is power. That is self-command. That is the habit of the man who sees everything and reacts to nothing unless it's worth it. The world rewards performance, visibility, proof. But the man who is truly unshaken doesn't live for the rewards. He lives by an inner compass that no one sees. His strength is not in what he says about himself. It's in what he chooses to do when there's no one around to applaud. Integrity for him is not a show. It's a discipline. And the most powerful form of that discipline is the quiet kind. The kind that doesn't get noticed. The kind that would be easy to skip, easy to excuse, easy to hide. But still, he does it. Because even if no one else is watching, he is. These small acts don't look impressive. They're not Instagram-worthy. They're not dramatic. They're precise, measured, intentional. Picking up what someone else left behind, closing your own loops, cleaning the space you didn't mess up, correcting the thought you know is false, refusing the shortcut that no one would catch. These are not moral performances. These are micro-trainings, spiritual weightlifting. Quiet declarations of the man you are, reinforced in moments that no one else will ever know about. And that's the point. Because if it needs to be seen to be real, it never was. The Stoic doesn't seek to impress. He seeks to align. And alignment is tested in the shadows, not on the stage. It's easy to be disciplined when people are watching. It's easy to be honorable when there's feedback. But what about when there's not? What about the decisions you make in silence with no audience and no reward? Those are the ones that build or betray your strength, because the man who cuts corners in private becomes the man who doubts himself in public. He knows, deep down, that his confidence is a costume, and the unshaken man will never wear a costume. He will stand naked in truth, rather than armored in illusion. Small acts of integrity are not about morality. They're about mastery. They teach you to hold your line, even when it doesn't matter to anyone else. And over time, those invisible moments accumulate. They become your posture, your tone, your presence. They give you a kind of quiet authority that can't be faked. Because when you know you do the right thing, even when it's unnecessary, you begin to trust yourself in a way most men never will. You stop needing external validation, because your internal dialogue becomes clean, solid, reliable. There is a voice inside every man that knows when he's compromising. That voice gets quieter every time it's ignored. But the unshaken man listens to it, even when the stakes are low, especially when the stakes are low, because he knows those are the moments that train the mind for when the stakes are high. Discipline isn't built in dramatic decisions. It's built in the quiet repetitions, the subtle choices, the ones that feel insignificant but shape everything. When you walk past a mess and convince yourself it's not your job, when you say yes to something that breaks your rhythm, when you allow a falsehood to pass because it's easier than correcting it, something in you bends, not visibly, not dramatically, but subtly, quietly. And enough of those bends become a fracture. That's what the unshaken man protects himself against. Not sin, not error, not imperfection, but erosion. The erosion of self-respect through neglected moments of truth. No one will know if you walk past the piece of trash. No one will notice if you let the habit slide just once. No one will call you out for cutting the mental corner, giving the half effort, leaving the discipline until tomorrow. But you will know. And that knowing will shape you. It will shape how you speak, how you stand, how you lead, how you react under pressure. It will shape the difference between a man who sounds strong and a man who is. This habit doesn't make you a hero. It makes you consistent. It turns your values into muscle memory, so that when the big moments come, the betrayal, the loss, the challenge, the spotlight, you don't have to pretend. You don't have to perform. You just do what you've always done. You hold the line. You stay clean inside. You answer to the one judge that can't be fooled, your own soul. Strong men don't need an audience to act with honor, because their character is not a reaction to the world. It's a covenant with themselves, a private agreement to live in a way that, even if no one ever knows, would still be worth it. That's not righteousness. That's not perfection. That's freedom. Because when you live that way, you walk through the world with a lightness no one else understands. You don't need to prove who you are. You already proved it, to yourself. And that's the only person who never forgets. Most men don't fall asleep. They collapse. They drag the weight of the day into their bed, hoping unconsciousness will sort out what they left unfinished. But nothing disappears just because you closed your eyes. The mind doesn't shut off. It stores. And if you don't consciously end your day, it continues without you, beneath the surface. It loops. It replays. It disturbs. That's why the unshaken man practices something few people ever consider. He ends the day before sleep begins. He doesn't just stop working. He concludes. He doesn't just switch off the light. He shuts the door behind his thoughts. It's not a routine. It's a ritual, a mental closing ceremony, a clean break between action and rest. And that break is where real clarity begins. This habit doesn't require an elaborate checklist. It requires presence. It's the moment when you stop being productive and start being still. Not in the passive sense, but in the sovereign sense. You take control over what follows you into sleep. You sit with the day. You reflect, not to ruminate, but to release. You ask yourself, what am I still carrying that doesn't belong in tomorrow? What needs to be acknowledged? What needs to be put down? Not everything needs fixing, but everything needs naming. Because what isn't named lingers. And what lingers unspoken turns into anxiety, confusion, mental fatigue. The unshaken man knows how to gently close loops, not leave them open in the dark corners of his mind. Most people think exhaustion comes from doing too much, but often it comes from leaving too much undone. Thoughts you didn't face, words you didn't speak, tensions you didn't resolve, decisions you avoided. The unshaken man doesn't let those fragments accumulate. Before sleep, he clears the field. Maybe he writes. Maybe he reflects in silence. Maybe he simply sits with himself in stillness. Not to review every detail, but to make peace with the fact that the day is over. What's done is done. What's unresolved can wait. He doesn't fight to control tomorrow. He earns the right to rest by fully releasing today. This habit is not glamorous. No one celebrates you for sitting quietly in the dark, processing your own thoughts. But it builds something rare, psychological cleanliness. Just as you don't go to bed without washing your body, the unshaken man doesn't go to bed without washing his mind. And that doesn't mean positive thinking. It means honest thinking, clean thinking. A short audit of the soul. Where did I betray myself today? Where did I stay silent when I should have spoken? Where did I waste energy? Where did I stay solid? Where did I move from clarity? He asks, not to punish, but to close, to learn, to move on. Sleep is sacred because it's a surrender, and you can't surrender well if you're tangled inside. You wake up tired not because you didn't sleep long enough, but because your mind never truly stopped. The unshaken man prepares for sleep like a warrior prepares for battle, calm, focused, unburdened, not by adding more, but by subtracting. He lets go of everything unnecessary, the argument he can't resolve, the outcome he can't control, the thoughts that don't serve his direction. He doesn't carry all of life into his pillow. He draws a line and honors it. This isn't about perfection. It's about protection, mental protection, emotional clarity, future focus, and it's built in moments no one will ever see. 5 minutes of reflection, a few deep breaths, a journal line that draws a boundary between the chaos and the calm, that's all it takes. But it only works if it's done with full presence. That's the key. The unshaken man isn't multitasking his way into rest. He's arriving at rest with intention. When you build this habit, you start waking up with a different energy. You're not pulled into the past. You're not cleaning up yesterday's mess before today even begins. You start the day from zero, not from emotional debt. You become sharper, more available, more grounded. You stop living in unfinished chapters. You stop waking up already overwhelmed. And over time, you build a kind of resilience that doesn't come from doing more. It comes from ending well. There is a quiet dignity in the man who ends his day with clarity. He doesn't need to be perfect. He just needs to be present for the moment he steps away. And in doing that, he reclaims something rare, rest that actually restores him. Not a break from life, but a return to himself. Not a pause from pressure, but a conscious stepping back into peace. This isn't routine. This is architecture. Because without this habit, your life becomes one long, unbroken blur. And in that blur, identity is lost. But with it, every day becomes a finished page. Not perfect, but complete. Not resolved, but acknowledged. And that's where strength begins again, at the clean edge of rest. Power doesn't need to be loud to be real. In fact, the louder it gets, the more fragile it usually is. The unshaken man doesn't need to announce himself. He doesn't need to dominate a room with volume or posture. His strength is felt, not shown, because the deepest kind of power is not performative. It's contained, it's mastered, and it doesn't ask to be seen. It simply is. There's a presence in the man who knows what he's capable of but doesn't need to use it to feel significant. He's already rooted, already full, already certain of who he is without a single person needing to confirm it. Most displays of power are not about power. They're about insecurity disguised as confidence. They're about men trying to be feared because they haven't yet earned the right to be respected. But the Stoic doesn't chase fear or respect. He embodies the kind of alignment that makes both automatic. He holds his energy like a blade still in its sheath, close, quiet, controlled. Because he knows that the real weapon isn't action, it's restraint. And the more you need to show people who you are, the less sure you are of it yourself. This habit is what separates men who influence the world from men who perform for it. The former command attention without trying. The latter chase it and exhaust themselves in the process. A man who holds power doesn't try to convince you. He doesn't posture. He doesn't explain his value. His calm makes others uncomfortable. His presence makes people recalibrate. He doesn't need to raise his voice because people lean in when he speaks. And when he doesn't speak, his silence still carries weight. Not because of theatrics, but because he's anchored in a place most people never reach. When you hold power internally, you stop leaking it externally. You stop wasting it on arguments, comparisons, or attention-seeking. You stop feeding the world your energy just to feel alive. You become quiet, not passive. Quiet, not shy, measured. You move only when necessary. You speak only when valuable. You respond only when it serves your center. And that's what makes you powerful. Not that you have power, but that you contain it. You own it. You don't give it away to every reaction, every mood, every spotlight. This doesn't mean you stay silent when injustice appears. It doesn't mean you shrink or pretend to be less than you are. It means you lead with alignment, not impulse. You choose when to reveal force. You know when stillness is stronger than confrontation. You walk into a room without needing to be the loudest. You lead without ego. You command without controlling. Because the goal is not to be recognized, the goal is to be rooted. And when you're rooted, recognition becomes irrelevant. The men who make the biggest impact often say the least. Because when your presence is clear, your words don't need to do the heavy lifting. The tone of your life speaks louder than any sentence you could construct. And that tone is built in quiet moments, in disciplined decisions, in the refusal to be pulled into performative strength. The world will tempt you to project, to prove, to dominate. But all of that is noise. The man who is truly strong has nothing to prove. He has only choices to make. You can always tell the difference between a man trying to look strong and a man who simply is. One needs attention, the other needs direction. One flexes, the other focuses. One broadcasts himself in every moment, the other builds himself in private and lets the results speak on their own. And that difference is everything. It's not about being seen as powerful. It's about being so deeply aligned with who you are that whether or not anyone sees it, you never forget it. Holding power is not about pretending you don't have any. It's about not needing it to define you. Because you've already done the work. You've already gone to war with your ego. You've already faced the mirror when no one else was looking. And now, your strength is not something you perform. It's something you wear. Quietly, steadily, with no cracks for the world to grab. When you reach this point, you stop flinching. You stop proving. You stop chasing confirmation of your worth in the reactions of others. Because your worth is no longer fragile. It's no longer negotiable. You've replaced volume with gravity, noise with weight. And in doing so, you've become exactly what the world rarely sees. A man whose power cannot be taken because it's no longer on display. It's guarded, it's internal, it's sovereign. Most people live on borrowed urgency. They wake up to other people's alarms. They move on other people's timelines. They confuse pressure with purpose, panic with importance, and speed with necessity. The unshaken man sees through all of it. He moves slowly not because he's lazy, but because he refuses to let the pace of others dictate his own. His calendar is not up for auction. His attention is not a public resource. He knows that just because something is loud doesn't make it real. Just because someone else is anxious doesn't mean he needs to be. That separation is what gives him power, the refusal to inherit other people's storms. False urgency is one of the most common ways a man is pulled out of his clarity. It sounds innocent. It looks like responsibility. But underneath, it's manipulation. People will dress their lack of preparation as your emergency. They will pass their stress to you like it's contagious, and if you're not careful, you'll catch it without question. You'll find yourself running, not toward your direction, but away from someone else's discomfort. The unshaken man never confuses pressure with priority. He doesn't react to volume. He listens for alignment. He asks, is this mine? Does this serve my path? Or am I just being emotionally hijacked by someone who doesn't know how to carry their own weight? He doesn't respond to urgency on command. That doesn't mean he's indifferent. It means he's deliberate. He's not in a rush to please, to fix, or to prove he's reliable. His reliability comes from discernment, not obedience. And when people realize they can't move him with panic, they either respect him or resent him. But either way, he stays solid, because his pace is not reactive. It's chosen. And in that choice lives his power. Urgency without clarity is chaos, and the world is full of people trying to recruit others into their chaos. But the man who stays grounded understands that not every text, email, tone, or tension requires his intervention. He doesn't jump because someone else flinched. He doesn't drop what matters for what's loud. He knows that being available for everything makes you useless to what actually matters. So he sets boundaries, not out of coldness, but out of alignment. He is not here to save everyone from their emotional turbulence. He is here to stay rooted, so he doesn't become another spinning piece in a machine built on panic. The pressure to move fast often comes from those who haven't learned how to wait. But patience is not weakness. It's a kind of strength most people never develop. The unshaken man can sit inside discomfort without scrambling to escape it. He can say no without guilt. He can delay response without fear of being misunderstood, because he doesn't trade his inner rhythm for social validation. He protects his energy like a master protects his tools, sharpened, clean, used only when necessary. When you adopt this habit, you start to see how much of your time has been stolen by invisible demands. How often you've dropped your focus to answer urgency that wasn't yours. How many goals were slowed. How much clarity was clouded, simply because you let someone else's anxiety define the moment. The unshaken man reverses this pattern. He doesn't match the energy of the room. He brings his own. He slows things down. He takes a breath when others want reaction, and that breath is where his control begins. This doesn't mean he avoids hard things. It means he doesn't do them on someone else's schedule. He acts when it's right, not when it's pressured. And because of that, his actions land deeper. His words carry weight. His presence doesn't just exist. It shapes the environment around him. People feel it. They know they can't push him around with panic. They can't manipulate his choices with guilt or time pressure. He's immune to the false emergencies that rule most men's lives. To live this way, you have to be willing to disappoint people. You have to be okay with letting others sit in their own urgency while you stay in your own timing. You have to be willing to let someone be upset that you didn't drop everything for them. And you do it not out of selfishness, but out of order. Because your life only works when it follows your order. And every time you abandon that for someone else's noise, you scatter yourself into fragments. The world rewards speed, but wisdom is never rushed. Depth is never fast. Clarity is never found in reaction. So if you want to live unshaken, start with this. Refuse to move just because something feels urgent. Ask where the urgency comes from. Ask what it costs to follow it. Ask who benefits if you jump. Then breathe, choose, respond from center, not from pressure. The man who does this doesn't just reclaim his time, he reclaims himself. You become what you repeat when no one is listening, the voice that speaks inside your head, the one narrating your life when the world is silent, is the one that builds or breaks you. And yet most men let that voice run wild, unchecked, undisciplined, poisoned by the culture, programmed by fear, hijacked by comparison. The unshaken man knows better. He knows that if his inner world isn't guarded, nothing else matters. That's why he treats his inner language like sacred ground. He watches every phrase, he audits every thought, because he understands. Words shape perception, and perception shapes reality. The way you speak to yourself isn't just self-help fluff, it's structural. If your internal voice is constantly critical, rushed, doubtful, or passive, you will act accordingly. You'll shrink when you should rise. You'll hesitate when you should move. You'll wait for permission that no one will ever give. And you'll call it humility, when in truth, it was sabotage. That's why the unshaken man is merciless with the way he speaks to himself. Not fake positivity, not empty motivation, but disciplined clarity, brutal honesty, high standards, clean commands. He doesn't allow lazy phrases like "I can't" or "I'm not good enough" or "it's just who I am." He replaces them with precise questions, clear direction, unemotional corrections. Language is software, and if the code is corrupted, the entire system malfunctions. The unshaken man doesn't wait for chaos to fix his mind. He starts by fixing his words. He notices when doubt sneaks in wearing the mask of realism, when softness disguises itself as self-compassion, when excuses come dressed in self-care, and he doesn't let them stay. He stops the sentence. He rewrites it. He trains himself to speak the way a master speaks to a disciple, with pressure, but with belief, with demand, but with purpose. His inner dialogue isn't gentle, but it's never abusive. It's solid, exact, a language that builds momentum, not excuses. Most men would never let someone speak to their children the way they speak to themselves. They would defend others but tolerate abuse inside their own skull. That is a form of slow erosion. You don't notice it at first, but one bad phrase, said often enough, becomes a belief, and beliefs turn into behaviors. And over time, you become a man living inside someone else's mental script. That's what the unshaken man refuses. He doesn't just change what he says, he interrogates where it came from. Is this my voice, or something I inherited from weakness? Is this command rooted in clarity or fear? He listens like a king monitoring advisors. And if a voice speaks without discipline, it is replaced. There is no room for sloppy talk in the mind of a grounded man. That doesn't mean he never feels doubt. It means he never feeds it. He observes the thought, breaks it apart, and responds with truth. Not fantasy, truth. Because real inner strength doesn't come from avoiding darkness. It comes from facing it with words that cut through confusion. That's what internal language is for. Not to comfort, but to guide. Not to entertain, but to instruct. The man who walks through life with clarity is the man who trained that clarity in private, word by word, thought by thought, breath by breath. You speak to yourself more than anyone else ever will, and those conversations form the blueprint for how you show up in the world. If your inner voice is soft, scattered, dramatic, or avoidant, so will your life be. But if that voice is firm, still, alert, and sovereign, your life begins to match it. You stop waiting for external motivation. You stop doubting your direction every time tension appears. You stop collapsing the moment your plan meets resistance because your words don't fold. Your words do hold. This habit isn't about perfection. It's about precision. Speak to yourself like someone who matters, like someone who has work to do, like someone who is not allowed to fall apart because too much is on the line. That kind of language isn't romantic. It's not poetic. It's steady. It's a quiet repetition of mental alignment. You say what needs to be said. You say it clearly. You say it often. And eventually, you believe it. You become it. The man who guards his internal language is dangerous because nothing enters his mind unchecked. No insecurity, no story, no weakness. And if it tries, he meets it with command. That doesn't mean he's rigid. It means he's responsible. He is not letting his mind become a playground for chaos. He is training it to be a weapon for discipline, for truth, for peace. And in a world full of men lost in their own noise, that kind of mental clarity is a rare and unstoppable force. There's a kind of strength that makes no sound. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't seek applause. It doesn't post. It endures. The unshaken man understands pain not as something to avoid or advertise, but as something to carry. Not because he enjoys suffering, but because he knows what it gives him. Pain becomes pressure. Pressure becomes depth. And depth becomes a kind of gravity no words can match. That's why he doesn't wear pain on his sleeve. He doesn't turn hardship into a badge. He absorbs it, not to hide it, but to own it, quietly, entirely, without turning it into a tool for attention. We live in a culture that monetizes pain, that rewards the performance of struggle more than the endurance of it. But the man who is truly grounded doesn't need pity. He doesn't need the soft cushion of sympathy to validate his experience. He needs solitude, reflection, time. He processes in silence, not because he's numb, but because his pain is sacred. It's not a weapon to manipulate others. It's not a currency to buy affection. It's weight. It's heat. And when you learn how to carry it, you emerge forged, not broken. He doesn't make a spectacle of what he's going through. Not because he lacks vulnerability, but because his vulnerability is not for everyone. It's not public property. He chooses who sees it. And even then, rarely. Most of his healing happens away from eyes and ears, in the dark, in motion, in routine. While others are posting, explaining, crying out for witnesses, he is building. He is translating the pain into power, not through statements, but through behavior, through resilience, through showing up every day when no one knows what he's carrying. There is a difference between suffering and dramatizing suffering. One builds character. The other seeks confirmation. One is internal. The other is external. And that distinction is everything. The unshaken man doesn't broadcast every setback. He doesn't collapse into others hoping they'll carry him. He stands up slower, maybe. But when he does, he doesn't ask anyone to clap. He walks forward with the scar, not the story. Because for him, the lesson is more valuable than the label. He doesn't want to be known for what hurt him. He wants to be changed by it. This habit of silent endurance doesn't mean he avoids support. It means he chooses it consciously. He doesn't dump his suffering on whoever's closest. He doesn't bleed emotionally in every room he enters. He knows there's a time and place to open up, and more importantly, a purpose. If vulnerability becomes performance, it loses its power. So he shares when it serves healing, not validation. He speaks when it brings clarity, not pity. Because he knows the truth. The world doesn't owe him comfort. It doesn't owe him understanding. And the moment he stops expecting that is the moment he becomes free. Pain is not the enemy. Attachment to it is. Making it your identity is. The unshaken man feels deeply. He's not closed. He's conscious. He knows where the pain lives inside him. He knows how to sit with it without letting it govern him. And through that stillness, the pain transforms. It becomes fuel, perspective, compassion without weakness, boundaries without bitterness. It becomes a reminder that he can endure without losing himself. Every man will suffer. That is not special. What makes the difference is how you suffer, loudly or quietly, reactively or intentionally. Does it consume you or carve you? Do you become smaller or more precise? Do you use it to excuse yourself or to refine yourself? These are the questions the unshaken man answers in silence. Not with words, with how he shows up after the storm. You won't hear him complain. Not because nothing hurts, but because he's too focused on alchemizing the pain into something useful. He doesn't give his pain away in exchange for pity. He lets it settle. He lets it teach. And when it's time to move, he moves. Not with the same innocence, but with more truth. Not with the same expectations, but with deeper focus. He doesn't bounce back. He builds forward. And what emerges is not a man untouched by pain, but a man who no longer flinches when it arrives. This habit changes everything. It gives him an edge that comfort can't produce, a calm that no affirmation can buy, a presence that doesn't need to justify itself. He carries his scars without turning them into a performance. He walks through fire without needing to prove it, because the proof is already in the posture, in the steadiness, in the stillness. That is where real power lives, in the man who suffered, who healed, who never used that suffering as a reason to be less. You're not waiting for your legacy to start. You're already inside it. Every thought, every word, every hesitation, every small decision, it's all being recorded. Not in some dramatic, cinematic way, in the quiet spaces where you believe no one's watching. That's where your real life is writing itself. And the unshaken man lives with that in mind, not as pressure, but as presence. He doesn't treat his legacy as some distant thing that begins after success or old age. He lives like it's already happening, because it is, and every day he chooses whether it will be built on clarity or avoidance, on reaction or authorship. Most people live like they have time to become who they're meant to be. They move through the day waiting for the moment when it starts. But it already started. The man you're becoming isn't some future version of yourself. It's what you're doing right now. In this second. In how you handle your frustration. In how you respond to the text. In whether you hold the line or let it slide. The future isn't waiting for you. It's being built by you. And if you don't own that, you become a spectator in your own story. The unshaken man walks through life like he's being watched, not by others, but by his future self. He makes decisions that make sense from the deathbed, not from impulse. He carries himself as if everything matters, not because he's dramatic, but because he's awake. He knows that the way he lives today will echo long after he's gone, in the people he shaped, in the silence he mastered, in the chaos he didn't join, in the standards he didn't drop. That awareness doesn't make him rigid. It makes him deliberate. Legacy isn't about achievements. It's about alignment. It's not about what people say when you're gone. It's about what you knew was true while you were alive, and whether or not you lived like it. That's the weight and the gift. Because once you stop pretending this doesn't matter, you start living in a way that does. You stop wasting words. You stop tolerating low standards. You stop confusing busyness with purpose. The man who lives as if the legacy has already begun doesn't rush, but he doesn't drift either. He moves with meaning, even when no one sees it, especially when no one sees it. This habit is not about being serious all the time. It's about refusing to live on autopilot. It's about remembering that you are building something with every choice, even the small ones. And over time, that something becomes your character, your reputation, your gravity, your truth. The unshaken man doesn't hope it works out. He shapes it. He takes responsibility not just for his actions, but for the atmosphere he brings into the room, the ripple effect of his presence, the quiet impact of his discipline. The legacy is not a moment, it's a frequency, and he chooses to stay tuned to it daily. When you live like this, you stop seeking meaning in big events. You find it in how you open your eyes in the morning, in how you listen, in how you stop yourself from slipping into distraction, in how you speak when you're frustrated, in how you carry your pain without blaming the world. That's where your story is being carved. Not later, not someday, now. And it's not about being remembered. It's about being real. It's about showing up as someone you respect when no one else is in the room, when there's no incentive, no reward, no spotlight. The unshaken man lives as if everything he touches carries weight, because it does. Your words create direction. Your tone creates safety or tension. Your silence creates space or doubt. Your energy creates patterns that outlive the moment. That's the legacy. Not what's left when you die, but what you're shaping while you live. This chapter is the one most men skip. They don't think in terms of legacy until it's too late. But the man who lives with this awareness gains something priceless. He gains focus, not just on his goals, but on his presence. He becomes allergic to wasting time, not because he's in a rush, but because he finally understands that every moment is a thread in the fabric of his story. And the question is no longer, how will I be remembered? The question becomes, what am I building with this moment right now? You don't need a monument. You don't need a biography. You need a mirror that doesn't flatter you, a mirror that asks every single day, are you living today in a way your future self would thank you for? That's the voice the unshaken man listens to. And that's why his legacy doesn't begin after death. It begins right now, with how he chooses to live when no one's watching, and especially when everything feels silent. He is not waiting to be remembered. He is becoming unforgettable through discipline, presence, and truth. And if something in you stirred while hearing this, something quiet but undeniable, don't ignore it. That's the part of you that's ready to begin. Let it, speak it, carry it into tomorrow. And if this message held weight for you, share it below. Say what stayed. And return here when you forget, because we'll keep building this together, word by word, choice by choice. Subscribe if you know there's more in you and you're done pretending otherwise.